Talk Time with Little Scholars every Saturday. Come hear the scholars. We learn, we laugh, and we share our minds from peace building to technology, education, current affairs, and social life. Find us on YouTube, Upperboards, and SoundCloud. We have got big ideas just waiting for you. With voices young and stories bold, together we shine, together we grow. It's Talk Time with Little Scholars. This is a project of Excellence Foundation for South Sudan. Let's build a world where young minds flow.
Allow me to take this chance to welcome the first speaker from proposition side, and that's none other than Honorable Auyen Lual Madut to come and give the argument.
First of all, I would love to say that they say laughter is the best medicine. But in the case of South Sudanese students, it is not cause of trauma. In my first place, I would love to recognize the presence of the moderator, secretary, respected adjudicator, the proposition team from Horizon Academy Secondary School, and the brilliant opposition team from Elite High School, staff, guests, and the lovely audience. Good morning. My name is Ayun Madut, a proud senior 2 student from Horizon Academy Secondary School, serving as the first speaker for the proposition side to affirm the motion that says schools should hire full-time counselors for mental health support. With me are Atera, our question master, and Scale Albino, our closer with a punch. First of all, what does the motion say? School. These are learning institutions, e.g. primary, secondary, in education and universities. Hire, officially employ and pay for professional services. Full-time counselors, these are professional trained mental health practitioners employed on a daily basis in schools to help students' emotional, psychological, and academic well-being. Mental health support helps students manage emotions, stress, trauma, and social challenges affecting learning and well-being. I will be talking on the place based on the consistency, builds trust, and early intervention, while the second proposal will talk on academic performance, and the third will talk on culture, healing, and peace building. Now, I would love to first start with my first point of view. Consistency builds trust and early intervention. Mental health support thrives on continuity. Full-time counselors build relationships, observe behavioral patterns, and intervene before issues escalate. For example, a student who has been bullied for weeks in a school has been affected in the mind, easily has now stress and is now depressed in the class and cannot easily focus. But with the help of a full-time counselor will be able to observe what the student is easily going through. Even if a teacher can easily observe, yes, the teacher can observe, but if a teacher takes part of his time to go and try that is counseling the student, that will intervene with the teacher's work of teaching the class, which will not be appropriate. So, consistency is very good if the counselor is there full-time 24/7. It will at least help to assist the teacher, and easily a student can easily talk to the counselor what he or she is going through, what kind of stress and problems he or she is going through, and it will be easy for the counselor to be able to relieve the pain from that student. And according to my second point of view and my evidence is here. Sorry. Dear moderator, can I hand over my own evidence for the first point of view? My second point is crisis doesn't wait for part-time schedules. Mental health crises are like surprising guests. They don't knock politely, and they definitely don't care if the counselor is available on Mondays. Okay, panic attacks, suicidal thoughts, trauma flashbacks, or breakdown can strike anytime, and when they do, students need immediate professional support. Part-time counselors may be well-meaning, but their limited availability creates dangerous gaps. In a Jongthok refugee camp, students suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder needed immediate support. Part-time counselors couldn't meet the demand, leading to emotional collapse and dropouts. As an African leader said, development is not about the accumulation of wealth. It is the expansion of human freedom, which means to say that emotional freedom is a human right. Full-time counselors liberate students from fear and trauma. And therefore, I would love to summarize by saying that consistency builds trust and early intervention. A student will easily trust the full-time counselor because the counselor is there full-time, unlike the part-timer counselor. And my second point of view was that crisis doesn't wait for part-time schedules. So mental health crises are like surprising guests. They don't wait to knock on the doors like that. So, and I would love to conclude that let's be honest, mental health crises don't check the school timetable like polite students. They don't say, oh, the counselor is off today, I'll come back at Monday at 2 a.m. Hiring part-time counselor is full-time problem is like using mosquito net in a thunderstorm. It is well-intentional but widely ineffective. So we say hire full-time counselors when the emotional fire alarm rings. You don't want the firefighters to be on break. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to take this opportunity to welcome the first speaker on the opposition side, and that's none other than Honorable Siama Santino.
You see here, members of the August House, with schools being platforms that do not escalate mental health but help in positioning mental health or helping the students with mental illness, we just don't think that the intervening of full-time counselors becomes necessary, because the application only comes when it is a problem that goes out of hand. The panel of judges, the secretary, the timekeeper, the chairperson, opposition, proposition, members of the August House. Before you stand, Siama Santino Ayuel, a senior 3 student, elite high school, the first opposition speaker. Now, since it was the speakers were well defined, allow me just give you a status quo that is according to Wikipedia as of 2024, a report about hiring full-time counselors in countries such as the United States and the United Kingdom, how disadvantageous they have become to the mental health of these students themselves, and to how the counselors themselves help to solve these problems themselves. Now, so I'll go through the work of Afama here, talking about the fact about consistency builds support, about the idea of bullying. Now, look here how she said that intervening with the teachers' work comes about when we say the teachers will take the work of bullying. Now, look how counseling becomes part of the teachers' work. When we say that there's teachers' training here, there's something that's called part of the training that becomes counseling work. And we just don't think there's anything to do with intervening with the teachers' work, because it's also the teachers' work. But then even if we buy into the idea of consistency, then look how consistency of the counselors becomes problematic here, because of how the counselors themselves are not in the class with the students themselves and will not even be able to identify the problem of these students themselves. Something that we identify in our house of the debate, the moderator, via the judges, and back to the audience. On the idea of crisis, don't wait for part-time students. Now look here how they say the crisis don't wait for part-time counselors. Look here how they say that problems can break out anytime. This is why it even becomes problematic when they do not include the teachers, as they said in their first speech, because when problems can come anytime, then it becomes important for a teacher to be able to intervene when the problem comes up anytime when the teacher is in class, maybe mood swings or something of such. Something that they say on their house of debate. Now to our instance and why we say, and what we are going to say, I'm going to do it in this way. First is why we say full-time counselors are bad. That is, I'm going to explain to you how limited time comes for a student here and the burnout of work, because the counselors here will handle a larger number of the students. And the second is how it burns out the work of the teachers, because it will be like, oh, we have the counselors in school, so there's no need for me to even handle a student that has mood swings in class or something like that. And then second is on what is most preferable, that becomes the partial counselors themselves and training of teachers to become partly counselors. And then why it works best is because of specialization itself. And then to the second of why we think teachers are the best here, we think teachers are best because first, they become immediate attendees to these students in class themselves and can easily solve the problems of these students. And now to the point of what my second speaker will say, she will talk of availability. Secondly, she will talk of trust and familiarity. Third, she will talk of passion over profession. My third speaker will talk of external service and experience, holistic support system, and then lastly prevents burnout. And then to my argument, of which I'm going to first talk of cost efficiency and mental health support. You see the need of efficient mental health support here and the act of also paying the counselors. Look here, counselors are people that are rare in the society, and paying them becomes some kind of hectic work. Now, paying these counselors that are full-time counselors require a large amount of money. But look here, when we have partial counselors and when we have the teachers that we are not going to pay throughout with solving this problem, it becomes more based on our house of debate. And that's why we say it's more preferable to have the partial counselors and the teachers, the moderator, via the judges, and back to the audience. To the point of earlier detection and flexibility, look here how the teachers become people who can easily cure the problems of these students at early stages in the classes and can easily detect this and are more flexible than to come to maybe problems that are out of their hands, because they are maybe, let's say, they're not people that are are more professional in this field of counseling but can handle this. We just think at the point of early detection, they become more people that can detect the problems of these students at early stages. But then if they deny the work of the teachers on their house or the bed, it becomes problematic because A, the teachers will stop some kind of counseling on their house, like on their own capabilities, and they will say the counselors will handle it. Something that will come maybe when the problem is now big, then the student will now, to my summary, I talked of cost efficiency and mental health support that comes with having the partial counselors and the teachers work together. Secondly, I talked of early detection and flexibility that comes with the teachers teaching a student in class and knowing the mood swings of that particular student. Now, in conclusion, philanthropy is once articulated here. You see, the beauty of something should first be estimated, because if you do not be careful, then you will later on find out that you are getting yourself a very beautiful problem. With all this, I would love to rest my case.
First, I would like to say a day without laughter is wasted. Because Lumumba once said, the great fear that you are hiding in you is the great weapon you can use to change the future. First, I would like to send my greetings to the board of the Honorable Moderator, Secretary Adjudicator, Time Manager, Proposition and Opposition, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and staff. I am Ater, a senior 2 student from the compound of Horizon Secondary School, coming to propose the motion that states schools should hire full-time counselors to promote to improve mental health support. At first, through the permission of the Board of Protocols, I would like to first tell my opponent. She said that teachers some people tell teachers to solve their problem. It is impossible for teachers to be able to solve problems when yet, because the teachers themselves needs to be counseled. There is a difference between a teacher and a counselor. Another thing, you said that paying counselors, it is better for a school to lose 25% of their students that are going through trauma, or is it better to make a budget for the beginning, or is it better to pay the counselors to come and counsel students? So please, you have to make an accurate of what you are trying to tell us. At first, I would like to start with my argument. My first argument is academic performance improved with full-time support. When I'm talking about academic performance, students dealing with anxiety, trauma, or stress struggle to concentrate, retain information, and stay motivated. Full-time counselors provide daily emotional support, helping students regulate emotions and focus on their academics. When I'm talking about this is the part of which when the teacher simply asks you that, define for me a certain topic, you're going to turn on your back and say, sir, this thing is not taught, it's not taught. What's the meaning of not taught? That's why we need counselors in our schools. We need to hire full-time counselors. Not that we have a counselor which visit today, tomorrow is absent, today he comes, tomorrow is absent. What if you are emotionally not feeling well? What are you going to explain on your academic performance? It will going to give you emotions, anxiety, and trauma, which will make you fail and you will fail on your academic. My second argument is about whole school integration and policy impact. Okay, when I'm talking about this when counselors become a part of the school's DNA, not just a visitor with a clipboard. When I'm talking when a counselor is part of the school's DNA, some of us, we are suffering from stuff that the teachers will want to be able to understand. Take for instance, I myself come and sit down on the sunshine like this, and then the teacher himself see me sitting. What will he say? He will come and ask me, I tell him, what's the problem? Why are you sitting down? What will I say? What will I tell him? I will start from the permission of the judges. I would like to use my finger. I will start pointing. What's your problem? Can't you see I'm taking rest? From there, the teacher will go and check on my form and check if whether I have mental problems. From there, we need counselors. What if the teacher will go and say that I am mad? This is in discipline case, but the counselor will understand why I'm doing that. Why am I doing this? I'm not saying that the teachers are bad, but I'm saying that they will understand us. Counselors will come and understand us more better. So please, let's hire full-time counselors. My third view is about preventive power and long-term impact. When I'm talking about long-term impact, this is when full-time counselors don't just react to the problems, they predict it, prepare for it, and sometimes stop it before it happens. Look, take for instance, in Uganda, full-time counselors reduce bullying and substance through weekly empathy sessions. In this, I would like to provide my evidence to the board of the judges. Again, may you please present my... Now, this is what I want to show you. This is a mobile phone. If you buy a mobile phone in the market without a charger, what's the use of it? What's the use of the mobile? A mobile without a charger is useless on your hand, okay? This is when I'm saying that if you don't have counselors in your school, just take for instance of how many students will run mad and no one is going to recognize what is happening. In my summary, I talked about the whole school integration and policy impacts. This is when full-time counselors attend staff meetings, shape inclusive policies, and support teachers. My second argument is preventive power and long-term impact. Full-timers run workshops, peer support, and wellness campaigns that prevent issues before they escalate them. Then my third review was academic performance improve with full-time support. Emotional stability boost concentration, attendance, and grades. Thank you.
Here, guys, how? There's an African proverb that goes, it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a parent and a teacher to be able to nurture this child in the minds and in the hearts. What do I mean by this? Even as the team Affirmative come with the presence of counselors, they do not really tell us the statistics of counselors that we are having in South Sudan, showing you that even Africans themselves know that teachers can be able to nurture their children. So proud to negate the resolution. I would like to salute the table of the moderator, the chairperson, the panel of judges, the secretary, timekeeper, guests in the August House staff members, proposition, opposition. My name is Aki Denyak. I'm the second negator of the resolution that states schools should hire full-time counsel for mental health support. I'm also a senior 2 member at Elite High School. Now, firstly, I would like to go through what the second affirmative came to tell us here. If you are keenly listening to what he was saying, you'll understand that he was all on our house of the debate. Why so? His second point, when he was talking of whole school integration, he gave us an example of a teacher, of a student telling the teacher that I don't know, it is not taught or something of that kind. You see, this is the exact thing that the first speaker was telling you from our house of debate. They tell you that these teachers will be able to notice the problem in first hand and they'll be able to solve it. As even he said in the third speech, where he said that when you find in his third point, where he talked of long-term counselors, he came and he sat here and he told us like the teacher will try to go and check the student's mental report. This is to show you exactly that even the teachers themselves consider the mental health of the students, making us even have this point of argument in the house of the debate. I would like to go through the revivals. First, to talk of cost efficiency to bring you back to what we're saying on our house of debate. We tell you that this is something that hasn't been implemented yet in countries such as South Sudan. Bringing in a new office will bring about problems to do with the cost efficiency and will bring problems to do with maybe expenses, that is to say where to give them the food, the shelter that the councillors need, just as the teachers give you. Why do we tell you that it is much better for us to have the teachers? We tell you one, teachers are always available, which I'll dive more in my points of argument. Then we tell you that teachers are considerate, as even the second speaker came to prove you in the house of the debate. That is what we are trying to tell you there in our house of debate. I'd like to go through my points of argument, where firstly I'll talk of availability. Now here, August House, we tell you that teachers are always in the school because they have a role of teaching. The argument we get from the house of debate, they're saying that the teachers themselves are not being trained. But let me remind you that counseling is part of teachers' training. The only difference is they are not being paid for counseling. That is the only difference that we are seeing here. Telling you that teachers are in right position to actually counsel you. They come and say that students run mad. Do you have counselors in South Sudan? How many students have run mad? None. We show you that even the teachers themselves can be able to solve the problem at the first hand. So, to back up my point, there is a statistic that goes, Program for International Student Assessment reports that 80% to 90% teachers are more available than counselors to the students. I'd like to submit this point to the high table of the moderator, by the panel of judges, and back to the audience. Secondly, we talk of trust and familiarity. We tell you the bond that the students will be able to share with the teachers is enough for them to open up to them and talk to them. We only tell you that if this matter is not in the hands of teachers that outreach, we'll have the partial counselors in this case. That's what we're telling you. A report that we say 60% to 80% of students trust teachers in countries such as Finland, Sweden, Denmark, making it easier for students to relate to teachers rather than new people such as counselors. I'd like to handle this point to the office of the moderator, by the panel of judges, and back to the audience. I'll take your point.
What's the most innovative aspect of your argument, and how can we build on it as the proposition team?
Look here, he came to ask me, what is the innovation of your own point of argument here? Our full innovation is telling you that if we were to have the teachers aligned with the counselors, there'll be a problem that will be solved at first hand, not waiting for the counselors who are only going to be in their office and have a tight schedule, making it difficult for the students to even get them. That is how we see innovation will be much better, because there's going to be a relation between the teachers and then even to the students, then later to the counselors. We have more inclusivity in our house of debate. Back to what I was saying, I'm going to talk of passion versus profession. Here we tell you that teachers do this thing out of passion because they are not paid for this thing. So they see, if I told this teacher, this student will have a problem, they'll be able to relate to the person. As the second speaker said, you go and check the medical form. That is exactly what we're trying to say here. But then the counselors, the full-time counselors, will only be in their offices with the tight schedule and only wait for students who even will tell you that these students will find it difficult to open up to a new person. Tell you that teachers will be the much the people, and the professionals will only wait for money at the end of the month, telling you that passion is better than profession. In this case, the teachers with the collaboration of counsellors is better than full-time counsellors. I submit this point to the high table of the moderator, the judges, and back to you, the audience. In summary, I talk of availability, where I tell you that the teachers are full-time in the school and they can be able to solve problems at first. And we talked of trust and familiarity, and where I told that the students will trust the teachers more than the counsellors. Then passion over profession, where these counsellors will only work for money and the teachers will work because of love. Now let me tell you, in conclusion, we tell you that a full-time counsellor in every school sounds good in theory, but when a student gets used to sharing secrets with him or her, how sure are we that their secrets are safe with the new person? And what of stigma? What of being labelled as a problem? So proud to negate the resolution. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, greatness is not for the great, and no single great man was under greatness. It is all about your personal field fight. The moderator, the adjudicator, the secretary, the time manager, proposition and opposition, staff, guests, and audience. My name is Eskelo Albino from Horizon Academic Secondary School, and today I'm offering myself as a servant to be whipped and beaten by these intelligent students. As the third speaker, I strongly propose the motion that states schools should hire full-time counselors for mental health support. But let me clarify something. We are not saying that teachers are not good enough. No, please don't get us wrong. We are simply saying that if teachers work hand in hand with counselors, they can easily make a better person, or they can make better people. They might say, but time is flexible, but flexibility without reliability is chaos. Teachers need only stability, not just a sporadic sympathy. The second speaker, came here and talk of teachers can easily notice. No, teachers don't notice what you are going through. They will only notice that you are not paying attention in the class, but they don't know exactly what you are going through. But a counselor will easily notice that there is something wrong with you, though he doesn't predict exactly what you are wrong with, but he will know that there is something wrong with you and ask you a question simply. Also, he talks of availability. Availability. We said we need full-time counselors. Then what's the difference between these things? We said full-time counselors to work hand in hand with teachers so that they can build a better person or better people, or they can make good students. Thirdly, she also talk of trust and familiarity. Teachers cannot be trusted, let me be honest. Teachers like giving good examples of what they have seen in the students. Like a teacher teaching in different schools will bring what he had in the other school and bring it into this school, and you're talking about trust. No, it can't happen. Full-time counselors, they empower teachers. They themselves, full-time counselors, they empower teachers. When full-time counselors are present every day, they become the emotional engine. Teachers no longer have time to act as the psychologists. No, they will teach with focus, confidence, and heart because they know there's someone behind them. Remember, in every team, there's always a coach and assistant coach. We are saying counselors should just be the assistant coaches, not that teachers are not good enough. No, please don't get us wrong. And if you think that part-time counselors can manage this, here's the phone. If I decide that I will only be putting the screen on Monday and Tuesday, screen protector on Monday and Tuesday, then what will happen when it falls on Wednesday? No, the screen will get broken. We need full-time counselors to work hand in hand with teachers so that we can handle the issue at hand for mental health. So secondly, equity for vulnerable students. The students from low-income families and conflict-affected backgrounds sometimes face emotional, social, and academic barriers that part-time counselors don't even have time to handle. If a counselor is only in the office on Tuesdays, what of the rest of the days? If there's a student who needs counseling, where will he go on that day? And the counselor will only be in the office on Tuesday. No, it can't happen. For example, in South Sudan, displaced learners with full-time counselors show higher retention and emotional recovery. As Julius Nyerere once said, the development of the country is the development of its people. Vulnerable students are not liabilities. They are the future leaders. Full-time counselors make sure that they are not left behind academically and emotionally. So let's be real. Equity isn't about giving everyone the same shoes, but it is about giving the right size for each child and a full-time counselor. This evidence indicates about equality. And here I hand it over to the team moderator, forwarded to the judges. Thirdly, let me talk of cultural healing and peace building. Counselors are mind readers. They say you don't judge a book by its cover, but that work is possible for counselors. They can see easily what you are going through, and that's why we are saying they can easily detect and they know what exactly is wrong with this person because that's the area where they are trained on, and they know how to handle such people. As Paul Kagame once said, we must work together to bring about Africa we want, a continent of peace. A continent of peace, prosperity, and unity. Peace begins in the classroom when counselors act as the emotional engineers because they don't just counsel, they connect, recounsel, and restore. So in summary, I've talked of the evidence. This evidence also indicates how counselors promote peace. Forwarded to the judges. So in summary, I've talked of full-time counselors empower teachers. When counselors are present every day, they become emotional engine behind the classroom. Secondly, I've talked of cultural healing and peace building. Peace begins in the classroom with counselors as the emotional engineers. Thirdly, I've talked of equity for vulnerable students. Counsellors ensure that vulnerable students are not left behind emotionally and academically. So in conclusion, we say hire full-time counsellors because healing isn't a weekend workshop. It is a daily dance of empathy, culture, and courage. Thank you.
Look here, teaching is not just about going to class and teaching chemistry, physics, or biology. Teaching is also about shaping the minds of those learners. Teaching is about inspiring those people. So given the fact that teachers spend 6+ hours with the students, we just believe they have the power to notice the changes in moods, behaviors, and engagement with students. And that makes them counselors by default. Because in an instant whereby a teacher finds the student not being okay in class, the student is not present in class, that teacher will ask the student, what's wrong with you? And he or she will continue to investigate what's wrong with the child. That is the kind of thing we advocate in our house. Because teachers themselves have the power to know what's wrong with the students, and they'll continue to check for medical information and find out whether that child is mentally ill or not. And that's the best thing we achieve in our house of the debate. The moderator, the timekeeper, the judges, proposition, opposition, staff guests, and the audience alike. My name is Nicodemus. I'm the third speaker from opposition, a senior 3 student at a leader school. First things first, I will first rebut the arguments, prepare for arguments, and go to my argument. Now, it's on the case of them telling us that it's better to lose 25% of the school money and then pay these teachers. Let us look at the case of government schools, right? In the case of government schools now, teachers themselves are not being paid, and now teachers are advocating and protesting within the societies. So in an instant whereby you bring this counselor to the school, who will pay them? We just think there's nobody that will pay these people, because even the government itself have already failed to pay teachers within the school. That's something problematic, because in an instant whereby we have these schools working with teachers that are already within the school, and then they change the minds of students, we just think it would be very easy for people to accord with that, because teachers themselves, it's their passion to change the minds of the students and what is within the societies. Also, it's about them telling us about full-time counselors. They don't break or they don't leave at the end of the day. Look here, counselors are paid more than the teachers, and in an instant whereby the school is not able to pay them clearly, we just think they will leave the school and go to a different place, because they are not being paid well. They do not receive what they really expected from that school. And a study conducted by the University of Columbia shows that 80% of every counselor leave from school because of burnout. Because in that school, there might be thousands of students, and American school counselors stipulated that one counselor is equal to 250 students. So then it's whereby 2,000 students in that school, we just think this counselor will not be enough for them, and they'll quit working at the end of the day in those schools. We just think that is a very big problem that they are not able to solve. Also on the issue of students being bullied in school, right? Look here, bullying is not just about talking to that person that is being bullied. Bullying go as far as punishing that individual that has bullied the other person. So in the case of teachers are able to talk to these people that bully people, and then they are able to also change people that have already been bullied within the societies. So teachers become more significant, because in the first place, they are able to notice changes within the students, but moreover, when the problem is really extreme, they are able to bring in part-time counselors who are even diverse and exposed to more problems that they face within the societies, and they will be positioned to change the stuff that people face within the societies. Also, they have different instances from their house, because in the first speech, they tell us that we do not want teachers because they will be inconvenient in their work. But in the second speech again, they tell us we need these people to work together. That is the problem, and they clearly support our house of the debate. Now, after my argument, first, is on external services and experience. Look here, guys. If you look at these teachers and part-time counselors, we just think teachers are always consistent in school, and these part-time counselors are exposed to other activities within the societies. So in an instant whereby these people face a problem with the society, we just think at the end of the day, they will implement the same processes they followed and change the minds of those people within the societies. The moderator, via the judges, and back to the audience. Second is prevent burnout at the end of the day, right? We just think at the end of the day, in schools that are overpopulated, whereby there are 2,000 plus students in those schools, we just think it will be problematic for this one counselor to counsel all the students, because most of them are facing problems, and these people will not be in position to solve that issue. The moderator, via the judges, and back to the audience.
Thank you, Mr. Honorable Speaker. You almost convinced me, but I managed not to be convinced. I want to inform you there's something you have forgotten. Teachers teach students how to multiply numbers, but they don't teach them how to divide the stress. That one is the work of a counselor. So, can you handle?
Okay, thank you very much. I remember recently when I was in a biology class, my teacher told me that when you are stressed, make exercise, and the hormones that are released and that stress will go at the end of the day. That is something that teachers do. So teachers will teach us how to release the stress at the end of the day. I hope I've responded to you. Now to my last argument is on holistic support system, right? Activities that are organized within the schools that are more of systemic and provide cinema to these students. We just think at the end of the day, these students will be in position to learn from those activities and change at the end of the day, and the teachers will be in position. So in an instant whereby the problem really extreme and problematic, these part-time counsellors would really be in position and solve the issues that existed within the societies. Now, in summary, I've talked of external services, more of the experience that these part-time counsellors have. 2, I've talked of holistic systems, whereby these people really have programs that already exist in the school. 3, prevents burnout, because these people's schools are more of overpopulated. In conclusion, dear Agasaus, you see, in an environment whereby a child feels valued, a child feels safe, that child is already in therapy and counseling. Because emotional safety is not just about you going to talk to the people. Because in an instant whereby a child is not used to someone because that person doesn't know the other issue, it's very hard for me to come and talk to someone who I've not seen before. But a teacher, I'm used to them, and it will be very easy for me to be open to them. So proud to win this debate. Thank you.
Allow me to call upon the captain rebuttals from both sides, beginning with the visiting school.
You see here, Chair, it becomes very problematic on their side when they do not choose their stances and when they do not choose their words appropriately. On to the point of the third speaker, when they say that teachers no longer have time to act as psychologists when we have full-time counselors in the school. In his speech, he also said that when teachers work hand in hand with these counselors, it becomes so. See how it becomes problematic here when he doesn't identify his own mistake that he said in his own words, saying that when the full-time counselors are there, they really remove the work of the teachers that they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to act on the students. Now to their point that they say that one, the teachers do not understand the students and the teachers cannot trust the students. See how it becomes problematic when they do not identify the importance of a teacher, or when they say that they will accept to trust the teacher to teach them in class, but still say they cannot trust this teacher, but then also say that they will accept to be in class with the teacher, but still say that the teacher do not understand the students here. In reality, when we face the real reality, we see that students are the best people that can understand these students. Why? Because they teach these students in class, because they're able to identify the students in this class and spend most of their time with the students in this class. Unlike counselors that will stay in their office and wait for the students to have maybe the full kind of problems and then counsel for that time. So what they don't understand on their side of the debate is how counselors look like, or how counselors operate their work in the school. How counselors operate their work in school is like staying in your office and waiting for the students to come. But see how teachers act on these students. See, teachers act on these students when they see the mood swings of these students and identify that this student has mental health and they can be able to support these students. Now, on their idea of academics performance, we tell you that this is even why we have the partial counselors, because they can come with different counselors at different times when it is an academic issue or when it is a mental issue. What do we tell you? We tell you first, we have teachers that are available in the school and can be able to solve this. That is in summary. We tell you there's trust and familiarity with the teachers that we have and the counselors, and then we tell you there's passion over profession when we have the teachers that will do this kind of counseling without payment. We tell you there's external service and experience when we have this kind of counselors themselves coming from external sources and have more experience on how they can best deliver these problems. We tell you there's a holistic support system when we tell you that the teachers and the passion counselors can work hand in hand to solve the mental issues of this problem, and then we tell of these students, then we tell you that there's prevents burnout of this kind of counselors that become some kind of tired in the school. Then we tell you there's cost efficiency and mental health support when it comes with us not paying a lot of money but the teachers working, and then we tell you there's early detection and flexibility. We then tell you that with all this we're so proud to negate. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to start with first convincing the opposition team with one of the proposal side said. He said that teachers help students to know their problems. But what did he try to say by then? He said that a teacher cannot easily observe what a student is going through unless the student is to show signs and symptoms. But a full-time counselor, a counselor who's there full-time, 24/7, can easily recognize the problem that is going with the student. Even if a student is moving around the environment there, since a counselor has studied what is going on with the student emotionally and psychologically with the academic well-being, so a counselor can easily manage to know what a student is going through. Unlike a teacher, if now we say that a teacher is supposed to be both a counselor and at the same time he's in the class, in Law Firm 1959 suggests that when an individual plays both professional roles, that of a teacher and counselor, he will experience conflict in terms of his job expectations, and consequently his ability to perform his job will be inhibited. So what are we trying to say? That teachers also themselves need counselors so that they can be counseled, because also they have other different challenges that they are facing, trauma and such others. Now also one of the opposers say that paying availability, that teachers are there full-time. But you know the difference between the teacher and the school counselor. A teacher is a person that is specialized in learning, in teaching students, while a school counselor is someone that is specialized in knowing what a student is going going through psychologically and emotionally. So there are two differences between a counselor and a teacher at the same time. Yes, and also one of the proposition side also says that counselors need to be paid. Okay, if counselors need to be paid, then why is it that teachers also do teachers do their work without payment? Then why is it when we come on Saturdays for coaching, teachers ask for money? Isn't it not that also they need to be paid? And also one of them said also that teachers are good enough, but teachers are not so that good enough as the school counselors. If we have the school counselors available here, we can easily manage to handle the stress that a lot of students are going through. So now, it is not good for us to let 25% of the students in the school to easily drop out when we can easily make the budget of the school counselors within a school. For a person cannot start a school without having a budget of a desk. Is it possible? Thank you. It is not possible. So now, whenever you're trying to make something, you should always have a budget for each and everything. So now, what are we trying to say? That you should put a budget also for the school counselors within the budget for the school. So that's why we can easily pay school fees. If the paying of the school counselors is expensive, that means also students should also pay enough school fees. That's why in Juba, South Sudan, different schools pay different amount of school fees. Some schools pay 30,000 SSP, while other schools pay $100 per term. So if we put a budget for the school counselors within the school budget, so it will be easy for the counselors to be paid also with the teachers. And so therefore, I would love to summarize by saying that we talked about the mental health, we talked about the crisis affecting mental health, and also we talked about the consistency which will create truth and our intervention, and also talked about the culture and ethical, which is going to help also students. And therefore, I would love to conclude by saying that it's better if we at least rise up and say that school counselors should be there within the school full time, so that it will help our students to improve. And therefore, I hand up my final evidence.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to an end of academic debate.
You have been listening to Talk Time with Little Scholars, where young minds speak loud and proud. Catch us every Saturday on YouTube, Upperbots, and SoundCloud, brought to you by the Excellence Foundation for South Sudan, giving children a voice, one episode at a time.